Right now, in regards to the Second Amendment here in America, there are two strong forces moving in exactly the opposite directions. Because on the one hand, you have over half of the states here in the United States allow for constitutional carry, meaning that people can conceal carry their firearms without a permit from the government. On the other hand, though, you have the federal government using their so-called bureaucratic authority, reclassifying certain gun parts as being illegal, and then sending out their agents to go door to door in order to confiscate these so-called illegal guns. However, in order to fully explain the situation to you, let me back up and start at the very beginning. And I hope that if you appreciate content like this, you do take a super quick moment to smash those like and subscribe buttons, which quite literally forces the YouTube algorithm to share this video out to ever more people, letting the truth be known far and wide. Now, to start with, while the narrative that's coming out of the mainstream media appears to exclusively focus on restricting the Second Amendment and making it seem like that is the popular opinion across the entire nation, in reality, what appears to be happening is that across the country, the Second Amendment is actually expanding. For instance, just last month, over in the state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law a new bill. It was called House Bill 543. This new law is what's known as a constitutional carry law. And what it does in practice is that it strengthens the Second Amendment rights of the people living in Florida by allowing them to carry concealed weapons without a government-issued permit. Basically, as long as you are a legal gun owner, you are now allowed to conceal carry within the state, with the idea being that such a right is actually bestowed upon you by the Constitution itself. Now, what's interesting to note here is that with the signing of that bill, Florida became the 26th state in our nation to allow the concealed carry of guns without a permit, meaning that in practice, over half of the states in the union are now permitless carry states. As you can see by this map, the states which allow concealed carry without a permit span from coast to coast. They are not geographically clustered together, such as only being in the South, and instead, they span the entirety of the country. And as I mentioned earlier, regardless of the narrative that's been coming out of the mainstream media for the past several decades now, the list of these permitless carry states has actually been growing dramatically over the last several years, which actually becomes quite evident when we look back at just the past 3 years. In 2023, you had Florida join the list, as we just mentioned, as well as Alabama back in January. In 2022, you had Indiana, Georgia, and Ohio join the list as well. And in 2021, you had Utah, Montana, Iowa, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Texas join. And so really think about that the next time you hear CNN or MSNBC telling you that people in states across the nation want to limit the Second Amendment. The reality is that within just the last 3 years alone, there were 11 states which became constitutional carry states. However, like many other issues that are playing out across the country right now, this expansion of the Second Amendment at the state level is being matched by gun restrictions at the federal level. Specifically, what appears to be happening is that the ATF, which is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, they have been tracking American salaries as well as their private gun purchases in order to conduct warrantless surveillance of American citizens. Specifically, we here at the Epoch Times were able to get our hands on several hundred pages of documents from within the ATF Bureau. And despite the fact that many of these documents are very heavily redacted, what they clearly show is ATF agents requesting the FBI to conduct warrantless surveillance of American citizens. Now, of course, that part is not really a shock to anyone. We all know that's happening behind the scenes. However, what was surprising were the reasons that the ATF was citing as to why these specific people needed to be watched. These people committed no crimes. They did nothing illegal. Instead, the ATF was citing things like, quote, low salaries, past firearm purchases, and sending quote-unquote bizarre messages as the reasons for why these people needed to be surveilled. All three of those supposed reasons, I should mention, having a low salary, buying guns, and sending messages, are perfectly legal activities. However, let me give you a few examples of what these surveillance requests actually look like in order to give you an idea of why the ATF was tracking the people using these specific criteria. As an example of why they were tracking people with low income, take the case out in Arizona. According to these documents, quote, a man in Arizona was put into the NICS's, which stands for the National Instant Criminal Background Check System's daily monitoring, because he has a reported income of only $2,839. The ATF agent wrote in the documents, quote, in my experience, someone with this amount of income would not be able to afford 20 firearms. Then, in a similar situation out in Texas, a man was, quote, put on the manual background check because the ATF said he has, quote, no work history, which could possibly indicate that he is straw purchasing. So, essentially, the justification that the ATF is using to track Americans, again, without a warrant, is the fact that they have low incomes, but are purchasing firearms. The idea here being that the ATF is investigating these people as to whether they are actually purchasing firearms for themselves or they're straw purchasing, meaning that these people are actually buying guns not for themselves, but instead for other people who might be prohibited from owning a firearm themselves. That's called a straw purchase. Now, we here at the Epoch Times, we actually, after receiving these documents, we reached out to the ATF and asked them exactly how they were acquiring people's incomes, how they were acquiring their employment information, and as well as how they were acquiring information about their previous gun purchases. However, the ATF refused to disclose that information and simply wrote back to us saying this, quote, "We are unable to discuss specific techniques utilized in criminal investigations. The ATF utilizes a multitude of legal means in our criminal investigations to protect our communities from violent gun crime." However, even beyond just warrantlessly tracking people, the ATF is now engaged in an actual door-to-door campaign where they're suddenly showing up at people's homes in order to confiscate forced reset triggers for AR-15 style rifles. These reset triggers, you can see one up on your screen right now, essentially force the trigger on the gun to reset at such a high speed that it increases the weapon's firing rate. Now, these reset triggers were previously legal, meaning people could go out and buy them, no problem, but recently, the ATF reclassified them as being quote-unquote machine guns and are therefore going door to door to confiscate them. Now, like with most things related to the ATF, it's not exactly clear how they know who has or doesn't have these reset triggers. According to AmmoLand, which is a trade publication, quote, "It is possible that the ATF received the customer's information from credit card processors or shipping companies. The federal agency had received customer information from Authorize.net and Stamps.com to track people who've bought 80% lowers from gun part kits manufacturer Polymer 80. However, setting aside how they actually got the data, the reality on the ground is that they are now showing up at people's doorsteps demanding to see their firearms. For instance, here's a video showing ATF agents as well as Delaware state troopers showing up at a man's house without a warrant and demanding to see his gun.
Verify that, look, verify that you have it. You got 2 different purchases. Okay. If you have them, I'm out of here. That's how quick it is. Yeah. You have them with you by any chance? Are they? If you can unload them and bring them out, or you can go out to your foyer here, check them out, by serial number, and we're out of here.
That's it?
Yep.
That's it. It'll take 5 seconds.
The reason we're out here is we're obviously gun violence has been an uptick, so we want to make sure we've been having a lot of issues with straw purchases. So one of the things indicators that we get is somebody makes like a large gun purchase, and then a lot of times we've been there like, oh, those guns got taken. We're like,
so the idea is when you purchase more than 2 guns at a time, it generates a multiple sale report, and it comes to us, and we have to check them out. Okay. That's all that is. You did nothing wrong. Did absolutely zero. I noticed that you were stopped in Philly, though, right? With one of your guns.
Nothing like a nice afternoon visit from the ATF in order for them to conduct an inventory of your legally purchased firearms. For your reference, here are the pictures of the warning notices that those ATF agents were holding in their hands. Also, there's evidence of this happening across the entire country, not just over in Delaware. For instance, here's another video of ATF agents who are very obviously both armed as well as wearing ballistic plates showing up at another man's home and demanding that he surrender his reset trigger. Take a look.
So the reason why we're here is because, I don't know, I'm sure you're aware that just recently the ATF classified the FRTs, the force reset triggers, as machine guns. Yeah. So we are aware that you may have purchased some of these FRTs.
Okay.
So now we are having, like, the whole agency is basically reaching out to these purchasers.
That's incredible.
And we have to pick them up. You know, they're illegal. So
I won't be answering any questions today. I don't have any comments on this subject. I won't be giving you anything.
Okay, so you...
Are you refusing to give us the trigger?
I'm not refusing anything. I won't be answering any questions.
Okay. But okay, so we are aware that you did purchase FRTs. Again, you wouldn't be in trouble if you just give those up to us, or if you sold them, you can tell me you sold them.
Sure.
You know, and you're not going to be in trouble for that.
I understand.
So we're just here, honestly, like, just to pick them up.
Sure. It's a bigger conversation than what you're having right now. You know, you decide as you go the rules, right?
Again, that's not something I decide.
It's not. I know. You guys are just here. You guys are just here.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all.
I understand.
I don't want to be here any more than you
Sure. The problem is you are the people who go and knock on the doors, right? So when they make new laws and you break them, or you go against the citizens, because they've spoken what they buy and what they do, the citizens are speaking, but the government is making their decisions on what they think. They're not being servants to the citizens, right?
And all we're saying is, you know, like, I mean, we, like you said, you know, we just hear, we are the ones that just come and knock on the door. We just enforce the laws. We don't make the laws. So
sure, I understand.
You know, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I said, you're not in trouble. I mean,
no, I understand that.
You know.
No, I didn't do anything wrong. Exactly. That's yeah. I love good law-abiding cops who are good people, are doing what they do, and I understand you have families to feed. You're just doing what you're told, so you don't get fired from your job. But there is a problem that exists, and at some point you have to make your decision on which side of the team you're on. So I won't be answering any questions. If I'm not being detained, I'm not under arrest, I'll just be leaving now. Okay. I won't be able to help you with what you're trying to find.
Now again, how the ATF obtained the customer's information about who bought these triggers, well, that remains unknown. As we mentioned earlier, they could have gotten the list from either payment processors and or shipping companies. But regardless of where the data came from, what is clear from these videos is that these ATF agents are perfectly aware of who bought the triggers, and they know exactly where these people live. And so this is the sort of bifurcation that we're seeing right now in this country. Individual states are moving to expand the Second Amendment more and more, allowing people to permitlessly conceal carry, while at the same time you have the ATF under the Biden administration reclassify certain gun parts as illegal and then go door to confiscate them. Meaning, the future in this country is either permitless, meaning no permits required to conceal carry, or warrantless, with the federal government knocking on your door without a warrant in order to confiscate gun parts that you bought legally. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below regarding which one of these two future scenarios you're more interested in seeing play out. And then also, if you'd like to go deeper into anything that we discussed in today's episode, I'll throw all of my research notes, including the ATF documents we're able to obtain, as well as the links to those front porch videos. They'll all be down in the description box below this video, so you can read the documents for yourself. And also, if you'd like to watch those videos in their entirety, you can do so as well. All of that will be down in the description box below. And then lastly, on a slightly different topic, I'd like to mention that over on Epoch TV, just yesterday, I published a super spicy episode detailing the current state of edible mRNA vaccines, the research behind them, as well as the push to get them into our food supply, which is a lot more advanced than you probably realized. If you'd like to check out that exclusive episode, you can do so over on Epoch TV, our awesome no-censorship video platform, because a platform like YouTube is not a great place to host an episode like that. If you'd like to check out that edible mRNA vaccine episode, the link will be right there at the very top of the description box. I hope you check it out. All you have to do is click on that link, and you can watch the episode right away. And then, until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free.